Kayfabe Corner. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Jordan Pierce Owens. This is my interview series where I interview some of the local wrestlers all throughout the state of Florida and above. Today I'm here with Syther.
How you doing, Jordan?
How you doing today, man? How you been?
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start off with the basics.
Go ahead.
How long have you been in this wacky world of pro wrestling?
It's been about 10 years, and I've had a little over 200 matches, which is
So you started young then, I would imagine, if you said 10 years?
Yes, I started when I was 15 years old.
What made you, so if you started young, I would imagine that you've been a fan your whole life. Is that why you got into it so young?
Absolutely. I was a fan since I was 3 years old. I can tell you when exactly. April 27th, 1992. It was the Berserker versus the Undertaker on Primetime Wrestling, and the Berserker tried to stab the Undertaker with his sword. I was hooked.
Oh, so like most people, you saw the Berserker and you just wanted to be a pro wrestler.
Yep, and not a Viking, surprisingly.
So where'd you go to train at?
It was up in Long Island, New York, with Mikey Whipwreck.
Did you look into a lot of places, or was that kind of the one that stood out, or?
Actually, like all good things that happened, it was just a freak thing. Just reading in the newspaper how the new local wrestling school opened up, and Mikey Whipwreck was the head trainer, and it was just, bam, 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 wanted to wrestle, and that was it. It just kind of happened that way.
Very nice. So you trained with Mikey up in New York. About how long before your first match?
About a year. I started training in February '05. Had my first match in June 2006.
Do you remember against who?
Yeah, a guy named JT Tackleberry. One of the nicest guys I've met there, and he's one of the first guys I met, and pretty sure he still wrestles now.
Good old tackle.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite moments or memories over in New York? So, opponents, matches?
So there was such a handful of guys that I got to work with that were just phenomenal talents, which is, a lot of the difference I see between wrestling then and wrestling now. Got to work with so many guys. It's, out of the school that I came out of were guys like Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, Trent Beretta, Maverick, Tony Nese. And then that was usually the last stop for a lot of guys that went up to TV. Like last place the Indies, they worked, like Darren Young, Matt Stryker, Amazing Red, guys like that. So I got to work with a handful of guys that taught me a lot of things.
Very nice, very nice. Any particular matches that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I enjoyed working with Dan Echoes, the Kayfabe brother of Danny E.
Danny?
Robbie E.
Danny.
Yeah, Danny is his name, and now he's a referee in NXT right now.
Oh, okay.
So good for him.
Very nice. You transition now, you're over here in Florida now, that's where we are right now, Fort Myers.
Yeah.
What was the transition for?
The transition just, career change, just moving from New York to Florida, back to New York, back to Florida, China, and here we are again in Florida. I'm pretty sure I'm staying here for a while.
Okay. Now you mentioned obviously something very interesting just now. Got to talk about it, China.
Yes.
What brought you to China, of all places? Place not necessarily known for wrestling.
It was just one of those things. Again, like I said, all the good things that happened just happened on a whim, really. Just looking up jobs, and there was just something. Hey, you want to go teach English in China? I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I'm gonna apply to this. They got back to me eventually, and there I was on a plane to China for a year. And when I was over there, again, freak thing, just contacted a wrestling group over in Hong Kong. I was a little too far away to go to their training sessions or getting booked on their shows, but they were like, oh, well, guess what? The first ever indie place in mainland China is opening up very close to you. You can get booked there. And there it was, I got booked there, spent, a good month and a half over there training with their guys, doing shows, and just having a great time.
So you train some people over in China. Now, if you're wondering where we are location-wise, we're here at the Crypt, a new training facility here in the state of Florida, over in Fort Myers, as I said. What made you decide to open up the Crypt and, teach people down here in Florida?
Well, just coming to the Southwest Florida area and just seeing the wrestling over here, just felt that, maybe a place needed to be opened where guys can learn more and just share their passion for wrestling. I just wanted to share my passion. I love wrestling. I want everyone else to love wrestling too. So share my knowledge, share what I love about it, help out the guys.
And do you still think, you've been in it about 10 years now, are you still learning? Do you think there's still a lot to learn?
Absolutely. I mean, anyone that tells you that they're done learning, just get out. You're never done learning. If you knew everything there needed to be known about this business, then you already would have been on TV, you would have made all the money, but that's not the case. You're always learning here, and there's just, with anything in life, as good as you are, there's always someone better than you.
Now, you've been in it for a little while, but you're still pretty young. Do you plan on doing this for a while, or?
Yeah, I mean, I can see myself, still being on the indies for a while, and even when I'm not, when I finally decide that, all right, it's time to really just give up, I'll still be training guys, I can't see myself being away from wrestling.
One way or the other.
One way or the other, I have to be involved somehow, I have to.
How long wrestling-wise, though? Like, what would you say, 10, 20 years? Less?
25 now. Figure by the time you're 30, all hopes are, shot for making it on TV. So
31.
30 and a half, 30 in a day, and I'm calling it quits. But I can't say, probably in my mid-30s, I'll say, well, all right, this was fun. But like I said, I can't not be around it, so I'll definitely either be here training people or somewhere just being involved. If wrestling wasn't around in my life, I would kind of be walking around pretty aimlessly.
What other things would you think you would enjoy in the world of wrestling? Do you think you enjoy, booking or, being a showrunner?
But, I wouldn't want to own my own promotion, that's for sure. It's a headache all on its own. It's different running a wrestling school, it's different being a wrestler on the show, but running the company, it's not easy. It's just a headache that I don't want to deal with. But I enjoy booking. I've done it before up north in NYWC. I did, have a hand in, writing the card and everything. So that was fun. But I would even like to try commentating at some point. Why the hell not, right?
I already got that. You can't do it.
What, you can't have a gorilla Bobby
Lashley
going on?
All right. You're a gorilla, Bobby?
I don't know. Maybe.
Come on. How dare you?
Will you stop? Okay, anyways.
Let's do role play now. I'm a little kid. Wait, no, hold on. Don't make this weirder than it sounds. I'm a little kid. I run up to you after the show.
Yeah.
And I say, Mr. Syther, that was great. I'm going to be a wrestler too. What do you tell him?
Well, actually, the first thing I would probably go was like, dopa.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because, we're kayfabing and the kids really think I'm crazy, but,
Oh, yes, it's an older gentleman. Or not an older gentleman, but someone, 18, 19, they're going to pull you aside.
so maybe like close to their 30s, kind of balding.
Like most aspiring indie wrestlers. No, it's someone, 18, 19, they pull you aside and like they say, hey, I heard you have a school. What can I do to get into wrestling? Like, what would you tell them to prepare them for this world?
Put a gun to the roof of your mouth. No, in all seriousness, if you really want to do it, if it's your dream, go for it. And I have a school that's readily available for you to achieve those goals, so sign up today.
So if you were 15 and you could do it all over again, you would?
Absolutely, it wouldn't change anything.
We have an audience question from Lara over here in the corner. She wants to know what's the difference between wrestling in New York versus here in Florida now. You've been in both places for a while.
It's like night and day. The caliber of athlete in New York is beyond the caliber of athlete in Florida. They've got the work ethic, the ability, and the ambition. Every time I've ever been in a Florida locker room, I've yet to see somebody with the ambition, the passion for it, that wants to take it to the next level. Everybody thinks they know everything, or they're just in it just to, do it on the weekends, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't ever tell someone that they can't do it for that reason. But if you're really serious about it, take the measure for the next step and hone your skills. But up in New York, it was either you're in it for the long haul or just get the fuck out. That's the mentality that NYWC had. You had to want it, and they pushed you and they tested you constantly. If you couldn't handle it, you got out, or if you didn't want to do it, they forced you out somehow.
We talked before about kind of the differences, each training facility, each person. I know you were telling me about how we're kind of saying the difference between here and kind of how you were brought up in New York, from what you see a lot of companies here. Like, tell us about how all the stuff you'd have to do for a show and tear it down, and how a lot of people don't necessarily do that here.
Just paying your dues, 100%. Whether you were the lowest guy on the totem pole or you were what was considered, a veteran, you were there at 8 o'clock in the morning. You broke down the ring. You set up the truck. You put it onto the truck. Then you drove the truck to the building, set up the ring. Then you broke for lunch, and then you came back and you had your, you went over your matches and stuff. And then it was showtime. Show was over. You broke down the ring, put it in the truck, brought it back to the school, and unloaded it. And it was a whole day affair. And if you couldn't take off the Saturday to do that, then guess what? You weren't going to be booked on the show, next time. Down in Florida, from what I've seen is, it's not run that way, and no one really gets any sort of punishment for not contributing. I think a lot of guys feel that they paid their dues. You never finished paying your dues. It doesn't matter if you've been wrestling for 10 minutes or 10 years. If there is something that can be done that you can help out with, you do it. And that's just it. And that's one of the main differences.
So getting into it at 15,
yeah.
Who's your inspiration? You said Berserker, Seven, Undertaker, but who did you really enjoy?
That was the moment.
Analyzing?
Yeah, that was the moment that got me interested in wrestling. Believe it or not, my favorite wrestler growing up was the Ultimate Warrior. Now I know everyone, shits on his work in the ring, and like, how could you ever look up to somebody like that? The guy's a maniac.
Well, you were young. You were a kid.
Yeah, you're young.
Everyone loves him when you're a kid.
But exactly, he's the guy that drew attention to himself, to everything he did, and he was just like It's
a superhero criminal.
Yeah, he just came out of a comic book, and he was so colorful that how could you not be drawn to that? And so that's what I like growing up. And once I started getting into wrestling, though, and started learning how things work in the ring, I think Jake the Snake was one of my favorite guys to watch and to study. And, that's pretty much it as far as inspiration.
Have you ever been starstruck, like personally, like you walked in a locker room and you're like, oh my god, it's so-and-so?
Not really, only because when I was younger, every weekend my dad found something for us to do, whether it was going to an autograph signing or an indie show or a toy fair or whatever. It was something wrestling related every weekend. So I got to see these guys up close and personal growing up all the time. So actually being in the same locker rooms, and it was just as cool, the difference was I'm actually doing the same thing that they're doing, which probably made it even cooler.
Is your dad proud of you, man? Because I know he comes to a lot of the shows, and it's fun to see that his kid did exactly.
Yeah, I think in a way I live vicariously through him. It was up
He
to
marks
him.
out bigger than you do?
I don't know if anyone marks out to me bigger than I do, but yeah, he's definitely proud. He's my biggest fan, number one. Anytime he can, he will come to the show, we'll film it. That's what's on YouTube is his filming. So make fun of his shaky camera work again, and I will punch him in the face. But
I got a new girl in here. You gotta meet her.
Where did Syther come from?
where did Syther come from?
Why Syther?
Good question.
Like the name, where'd it come from?
Like I told you, June 2006, I was having my first match, and Mikey was like, all right, you gotta come up with a name for yourself. I was like, okay. I like the name Steve, it's my real name, and I just needed something to go with. I needed a last name for that. I wanted to be Steve something. So I went home and I went through a deck of Pokemon cards, and going through the names, and Syther came up. I was like, wow, that's it right there. Just change the spelling so nobody really knows, and the name Syther was born.
So you were this close to being Steve Charizard.
Steve Bulbasaur, Steve Snorlax.
It was Warlord.
Barbarian.
Oh,
Want to hear a funny Warlord story?
of course, everyone wants to hear one.
Warlord was booked in NYWC. They were doing a little, run where Stockade, you've heard of that name, I've talked about him many times. Stockade was wrestling legends of wrestling. Every month he'd come out, blah, 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 kind of like Keith Slater did, and he would get squashed by a legend. He did Doink one show, King Kong Bundy, Tito Santana, and then this time it was the Warlord. Oh, had his match with the Warlord. Warlord gives him a powerbomb, almost drops him on his head. That's not even the funny part. They go back. It was Stockade's job to drive the Warlord back to his hotel room. Warlord, drives him back to the hotel room, and we just didn't hear from Stockade. Where'd he go? It's been hours now. One of the co-owners of NYWC, John Curse, gets a phone call from Stockade. Stockade's panting, breathing heavily. Stockade, where are you? Where have you been? Warlord's been practicing wrestling moves on his hotel bed with me. And that was it. I don't know if it's a true story or...
I don't even picture this Warlord in a hotel room.
I don't know if John Curse is just, ripping us and just telling us that story, but it's one of my favorite stories ever. So basically, the Warlord raped Stockade.
Yes, audience member?
What are your thoughts on current WWE, TNA, ROH, and the Indies?
So what is your current thoughts on, let's first start off with, let's say the main companies. What's your thoughts on WWE products, TNA, ROH? What do you like, what do you dislike?
Well, WWE, no doubt about it, is the main company, and it always will be.
Can't fight it.
You really can't fight it. It's not going to go away anytime soon. It'll still be here long after we're gone. And, a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about their product, but they're still churning out, good matches here and there. There's some storylines. It's becoming more like that PG era, which is more gimmick oriented, which I personally like. So I have really nothing that bad to say about it. Triple H is doing fantastic things with NXT and whatnot. A lot of guys like me are getting shots that 10 years ago they would never get. So it's looking good for the future, I think.
Any thoughts on, I don't know if it's TNA anymore, but Impact Wrestling?
Impact Wrestling, TNA, they got some good things here and there, but really it's just an indie fed with a budget, and obviously not a very good budget because they switched networks or whatever. I don't know.
Destination America.
Yeah, well, hopefully that works out for them. But
what about your favorite, like ROH, BWG? I know you're more old school, am I correct?
Yeah, that's my favorite type of wrestling is the late 80s, early 90s, where it's all gimmick and the guys were wrestling 300 plus days a year, so they were wrestling smarter, not harder. Which brings me to the point of ROH and PWG, where these guys are putting on these, they are phenomenal matches. They're putting on these hard-hitting, acrobatic, just matches that really do get fans to come out of their seats, that enjoy that type of wrestling. And the only problem with that is if they were wrestling, 300 plus days a year, obviously they wouldn't be doing that style. Our bodies can't handle it. For the indie guys that do that, once a month, we know how much that hurts us. Imagine just trying to keep up with that, doing that every day. It's just not possible.
And what about more local indies? What do you think could better or improve the smaller indies?
Asking a question like that, it's such a broad topic. Not one answer is going to sum up how to fix the indies. That's for sure.
You write a book.
What?
You should write a book about it.
I'll write a book about it. I think there is already a book out there, How to Fix the Indies, and
oh yeah,
and their chapters suck too. So I'd have to rewrite that book first. But no, it's just that it's from the start. Like people that own the companies are just it's usually just some old man with a budget that wants to put on wrestling shows. Rents out a building, rents out a ring, and that's about it. They don't really know anything about wrestling, and they just think that, we want to put on a wrestling show. And then that's that aspect of it. You have the guys that are involved in it, that they all think they're superstars, you know, and you watch any one of their matches, you can just tell right from the first tie-up that this match is going to be Hercules. You know, drizzling shits is the more appropriate word. I learned that word from Mikey Whipper.
Drizzling shit?
Yes, he used to always say drizzling shits, shit the bed. Funny guy.
Besides any parting words to the YouTube faithful,
YouTube faithful, just keep tuning in. You know, I'm sure this guy's got a good show on his hands, and I appreciate being the first one. Thank you very much. And,
it's a one debut.
Yeah, and there you go. And for all the fans out there who have ever heard of who I am, just keep following me. I'm sure I'll be doing something.
Do you want to plug Twitter, the school?
Yeah, plug the Crypt Wrestling Training Facility. If you're in the Southwest Florida area or Florida area in general, you want to come down, have fun, learn some wrestling stuff, and you know, just share the passion.
Steve Syther, want to wrestle?
Yeah, like Sal Bandini. Exactly. Just come down here. That's it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Syther. Check out the Crypt over on Twitter and also on Facebook. This is Jordan Pierce Owens. Thanks for tuning in. Good night, good luck, and bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.